I was at Cypress School yesterday morning, and you could feel an unusual energy in the room. Arena, do you know what the last day of school is? When? Tuesday. Are you ready for the last day of school, Gabe? You ready? Oh. Wow, now that says something about school if he doesn't go, yeah! Derek, last day of school, when is it?
18th.
Oh man. That's like, what, 2.5 weeks? Oh. I'm glad this is Seattle, not Memphis. Because where I grew up, summer started in April. And I can remember sitting in school, all the way, starting sometime in April. And you'd just sit there and you'd look out and you'd see sunshine, birds flying. And the clock, of course, was stuck. The clock didn't move. The calendar didn't work. I don't know. I live for the end of school, like from January on. I shouldn't admit that, but boy, 18. I should have given you $2. Wow. All right. Well, so Thursday night, I'm at Forces Coffee Shop, which is a couple of blocks down here, working on my sermon. It's late. I'm hard at work on my sermon. And somebody tapped me on the shoulder and says, can I take this seat? I'm sitting at a table, and I look up. It's a beautiful young woman. And I'm going, oh, shit. Yes, ma'am. You may sit there. I'm feeling really flattered until I look around and realize it is the only seat that is not occupied in the coffee shop. And since Pete's coffee shop has already closed, it's not just the only seat in that coffee shop, it's the only seat in the neighborhood. So yes, ma'am, you may sit there. So she gets her beverage and she flips open her computer and she goes to work, and I look over a little later and, she's doing what I'm doing. I'm writing and she's writing. She's not searching the web, she's writing. So I go, you writing a book? And she goes, no. I am writing the last paper of my college career. I don't care what it says. I just want to be done. What can they do to me now, I'm finished. Especially in the context of school or school careers, Summer is the promise of freedom. Now, maybe Gabe wouldn't do this. I'm sure that some of you guys would. What are you going to do the day after school gets out? Nothing. Sleep till noon. Some of my young friends would sleep till 3 and then game from 4 to 4. I don't advise it, but it happens. Summer. To me, summer is the most wonderful time of the year, especially here in the Northwest. Now, I thought that everybody agreed. I didn't know. I knew that not everybody agreed with me, but I had planned the sermon just, full of confidence that, after 9 months of rain and clouds and cold, everybody be going, yeah, in the summer, that's when you come to life. Then I talked to Kurt Mayer last week, and I almost decided not to preach the sermon. He talked about getting out in the winter with an enthusiasm that was entirely intimidating. I talk about this gray weather and, maybe I could survive it if I had enough gear and stuff. And he's going, oh man, I'd love to get out there and just, have the right, just bring it on, weather, I can do it. I'm going, oh man, there goes my summer sermon. But at least for 51% of us, the advent of sunshine and warmth, The opportunity to take a hike without putting hypothermia protection in your pack, it's a blessing. It's lovely. Summer is good. And one of my favorite things about summer is a road that's 40 minutes from my house, 40 minutes drive, southeast of my house. It's the turnoff to Sunrise in Mount Rainier National Park. A few miles in is the parking area for the trailhead that takes you to Summerland. And that's, I mean, you look at that on the map. You mean I could hike to Summer? That's way cool. If you resist the urge to stop there and you keep going, you go to the end of the road, 6,400 feet. Sweeping up to your right from the parking lot, or especially in July, just these magnificent hillsides sparkling with wildflowers. Straight ahead above the roof of the visitor center is, the blue and white glaciers of Mount Rainier on a sunny day, practically blinding white. Off to your left, to the south, the jagged edges of the Tatoosh Range. For a summer Sabbath afternoon, there is no better place in the world than Sunrise. And you have your choice of destinations for hiking: Deggy Peak, Fremont Outlook, Mark Hahn's favorite, Grand Park. My favorite, Burroughs Mountain. And if you go on July 20 or August 17, you could hike to any one of those, well, I don't know about Grand Park, but any of the other 3 destinations. You could hike there, take a snack supper, and wait until sundown. And then walk back under the moonlight. It would be a little before full moon. The moon would be up an hour or 2 before sunset, and you'd have enough light after sunset to walk all the way back without a flashlight. It's just the magic, perfect Northwest Sabbath afternoon. The perfect Northwest summer day. Ah, it'd be so nice. Summer is, for me, not for Kurt, but for me, summer is freedom. It's the freedom from having to carry a lot of extra gear so I don't die of hypothermia. It's the opportunity to take a bike ride without rain gear. It's easy. But it begins for me with that negation. It's the absence of cold and gray and clouds and wet. And maybe, that sense of, is what made me think of Sabbath. And so today's sermon is about Sabbath. I'm going to try to paint a picture of Sabbath as this kind of magic summertime that we create and that we can create weekly. A space where you can go, You can let go of some of the protective drives, some of the need to establish yourself, prove yourself, secure yourself. The Sabbath commandment is primarily negative. The way Sabbath is created is by negation. Don't work. Oh, and don't make your donkey work. Don't make your kids work. Isn't that sweet, Gabe? 1 day a week. Mom says, I need you to get busy. You go, wait a minute, Mom, it's Sabbath. Yeah. Isn't that sweet? I love it. When I was a student, taking organic chemistry in the summer, 5 years after I'd taken the last chemistry class, everybody else in the class was taking organic chemistry for the second time because you had to have an A+. We studied 7 days a week, 25 hours a day. By the end of the summer, I'm dreaming equations written across the board. In those days, we still used blackboards. Personal computers did not exist. Believe it or not, I'm that old. And I can remember on Friday afternoon looking at this big book and going, see you later. Late Friday afternoon, I'd close the book and put it down. And for 24 hours, I was a human being instead of a student, instead of somebody dreaming of getting into grad school. For 24 hours, it was easy. Life was, I could go play in the park. I could sleep. I could do whatever I wanted for 24 hours. Sabbath is the removing of the pressure to perform. Removing the pressure to achieve, to accomplish. It's defined negatively. Now, I did not sleep all Sabbath. That would be really boring. But I could if I wanted to. I could do anything I wanted because the obligation was set aside. For 24 hours, I stepped outside of my identity as a serious student. And now I could just play. And that's what God wants for us in the Sabbath. This summer experience of, Now, obviously, summer is not simply the absence of cold. At least summer enjoyment is not merely the absence of cold, or clouds, or rain. Summer is ice-cold watermelon. You like that? Yeah. For a few of the Billy Goats here, summer is trails in the Cascades without snow on them. Yeah. Some of you, summer is sitting in a sailboat on a warm afternoon, 15-mile-an-hour wind, puffy clouds, blue sky. Yeah. Oh, now that's summer. Maybe some of you water ski. When you think summer, you don't think, oh, summer is a time when it's not cold. At least I don't think that's what's in your mind. If summer is a happy thought for you, it's because of the stuff that's put in there. The adventures, the play, the connection, the family vacation, hanging out with grandma. It's the same thing with Sabbath. Sabbath is defined through negation. But people who enjoy Sabbath, if you ask them, so what is Sabbath? And they go, oh, Sabbath is a day when I don't work, I don't go to the office. I'm going to guess if people tell you that, one is their life is kind of miserable. The misery is so large that and sometimes that's the way it is. I don't mean to be scornful in saying that. Sometimes that's just nature of reality. But generally, if you talk to people who like Sabbath, they'll talk about, oh, now Sabbath, that's when at our house, you should be at our house on Friday night. The food's amazing. Or Sabbath, that's when we make music together. That's when we go to the park. That's when we go visit Mrs. Jones. We put stuff in it. But we are free to do that because of the negation that has emptied it of the pressure that in American life threatens to fill every waking minute of every day. Sabbath is a summertime. Jesus highlighted the creative element of Sabbath in our second scripture reading. So we began with the fourth commandment. Don't work. Don't make your kids work. Don't make your donkey work. The second reading, the New Testament reading that we have, it began with Jesus' comment about wineskins, which I had never before linked with the passage that follows. I'd always linked it to what goes before, but when you look at what follows, it's intriguing. Jesus said, look, you don't take new wine and put it in an old wineskin because it'll just ruin everything. It'll break the wineskin and the wine's on the ground, you lost it. He said, no, new wine needs new wineskin. And he's talking about the forms and the spirit of religion. If If religion has a renewal or a revival, and you try to fit that renewal and revival into the fossilized forms of previous religion, you will destroy both, which our current church president should think about. If the church is genuinely revived, it cannot look like what it did, because what was perfect for then. And if it was perfect for then, it cannot be perfect for now. Adventist Sabbath rules, you know where they came from? We got them from the Puritans. When did the Puritans come up with their Sabbath rules? What kind of culture? What setting? You know what? 17th century England. The rules they came up with made sense to those folks. They were doing their best to create something that worked in their culture. And for us to pretend that we are so wise and we know what they should have done is kind of silly. It would be equally silly to think that they knew what we need to do. Have you ever thought about the difference between summertime in Phoenix and Seattle? I'm sitting here whenever, now that, living in the Northwest, whenever I think of summer, I'm going, oh, please make it hot. Please make it hot. I've talked to people who live in Phoenix, and I've not met anybody yet from Phoenix who tells me that in the summertime they're praying, please make it hot. It just doesn't happen. Sabbath afternoon in July in Phoenix. What do you want to do? Get out there and soak. Well, you want to run 3 miles in 108 degrees. No, you don't. You hide in the air conditioning. Summer keeping in the Northwest and summer keeping in Phoenix look different, and they should. Sabbath keeping in 2013 and Sabbath keeping in the 17th century should look different if they are both going to serve the people who are alive at the moment to do the Sabbath keeping. New wine, new wineskins. Now, if I were to read to you Sabbath keeping rules that the Pilgrims had back in Massachusetts, you would be looking at this and you would start laughing. You're going, what? That's goofy. It doesn't fit us. Some people, becoming aware of those ancient rules, they go, these rules are dumb. I know. We should get rid of all these dumb Sabbath rules. Sabbath time and regular time should just all be the same. Let's just blend it together. Not good. At least not wise. The answer to goofy rules is not getting rid of all habits and disciplines that structure our lives, but making sure that what we have fits here and now and us. Wine always needs some kind of skin to hold it. Now, you could produce wine to pour on the ground. I'm not sure why you would do that, though. You need a bottle. And the rules and habits and patterns of life become the bottle that holds our spirituality and nurtures it. In American society, go back 50 years, 75 years, we were a Sabbath-keeping society as a whole. Now, most Christians disagreed with Adventists about what day you did that on, but everybody agreed, yeah, we ought to keep Sabbath. And so I would argue with my Baptist neighbor, it's supposed to be on Saturday. And she would say, no, it's supposed to be on Sunday. So we compromised. Nobody mowed their lawn on the weekend to avoid annoying the other one. But that very idea that in our neighborhood, the Baptists didn't mow on Sabbath, Saturday, because they didn't want to offend us, And also, they explained to us, in case we didn't get the hint, and they really didn't want us mowing our lawn on Sunday, because we understood each other. There was this common understanding that whichever day you're talking about, Sabbath is a holy day. It's a whole day. Sabbath is not getting to church and back. It's this whole day. That's gone from American society and from American churches. There's a growing number of books. If you go to Amazon and type in Sabbath, you can find a bunch of books about Sabbath keeping. And if you read them, you'll find them fairly vapid and unsatisfying. And the reason is that the books are written by people who, except for Jewish writers, the Christian writers do not keep Sabbath, and so they're writing about their hunger for a Sabbath experience. That's an entirely different book from somebody who writes from a deep experience of the richness of Sabbath in a community. And you can feel the difference when you read them. Jewish writing on the Sabbath will be rich. The other writing will be very thin, very vapid. They'll go, well, we need a Sabbath, so see if you can carve out 15 minutes on 3 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon to take a break. I'm going, that's not Sabbath. If you have no other time, 15 minutes is better than none in the entire week, but that's not Sabbath yet. So, as a Seventh-day Adventist congregation, one of our callings, and a fairly high one, is to keep alive the experience of Sabbath, not the theory. The theory is available easily. These books that talk about Sabbath, they've got the theory. Our call is to keep alive the experience of the Sabbath. Yes, for ourselves, it will feed us. It will equip us for touching others. But it's not just for ourselves. It's to keep alive an experience for others in our culture whose need, spiritual and social, eventually may drive them to look for something that they remember reading about in Laura Ingalls Wilder's books. Sunday in her books is a Sabbath. It's a holy day. In Protestant clergy today, we'll talk about how they read that and they go, oh, I wish we could somehow recover some of that, but we can't. And our experience becomes then a model for a world that's hungry for the open space, the summer of Sabbath. Now, Green Lake takes seriously summer. You know how I know that? I read the newsletter. Did you read the newsletter? So August 25, a summer picnic. Yeah, you can only do that in the summer. Now, I'm sure Kurt could have a picnic in the snow up on Noble Knob in January. I am willing to wish him well. I hope Kurt forgives me. I did not clear this sermon with Kurt. Then Mark and company have planned these hikes every other Sabbath starting next week. That's an ad. Next week, every other Sabbath all the way into August, there's a walk, a hike, an ice cream feed. That sounds good. And then the ball games. Have you looked every Sunday until what, July 28th? Every Sunday, you could watch Green Lake softball. Some of you are good enough you could play Green Lake softball. Now, the reason I mention this is, again, a rich enjoyment of summer is not doing nothing. Kids get out of school. Oh, it's so wonderful to be out of school and do nothing. How long does that last? A little while of nothing is good. Depending on the kid's energy level, that might last 2 days, might last 2 weeks. But eventually, nothing is not enough. So we put good stuff into our summer. And if you don't plan it, it won't happen. How many times do I come to the end of the summer and go, you know what, I'm 40 minutes from the turn-off to sunrise, and I only got there once this year. One year I didn't go a single time, and the snow came and closed the road, and I'm going, oh, crumb, I missed it. If you're going to enjoy summer, you're going to plan it. And if you're going to get the really richness out of Sabbath, you will plan that too. You will organize your life so that you enjoy and savor what's there. One last illustration. For me, well, for Karen and me, our official day off is Monday. Now, of course, day off is a euphemism. That means we're not getting paid to do what we do that day. We're power washing the fence. We're pulling weeds. We're fixing the post that the horse knocked over last month. Fixing the electric. Painting the house. Doing taxes. Oh, yes, that's fun. Washing the car, once every other year. Day off, you're busy. But if it's a nice summer day, if this is late July, early August, and it's warm, pulling weeds, hoeing in the garden, even, this is a stretch, even painting the house. You're outdoors, it feels good. As long as we get to add one more thing, and that is on a perfect day off in the summer, when we're power washing and all that stuff, we quit before we collapse and before the sun has gone down. While the day is still warm and magic, we quit and we go sit on the front porch and enjoy some icy lemonade. Now, doesn't that sound perfect? Not you kids. You're too young to understand this. But you older folks get it. Now, I know that some of you are related to my wife and me. Each of you accuses the other of workaholism. And I know that at our house, that lemonade on the front porch will not happen unless ahead of time we have agreed to an ironclad, unchangeable quit time that has nothing to do with whether the work is done. Because now your houses are, you've got, most of you probably, your garage is clean and your house is in order all the time, but at our house the work is never done. So if you work until the work is done, that means you work until you collapse. And it's still not done. The only way to sit on the porch and enjoy that icy lemonade and to savor the sweetness of a summer evening is to embrace the rule that says at that time on the clock we will quit. It's that kind of rule that Sabbath creates in our lives. A rule that gives us permission to enjoy, to savor, to be in the summertime without respect to what we've accomplished or achieved or how much is left to be done. We simply stop and enjoy the presence and grace of God at His invitation.